Good morning. Welcome to Kingsport News Hour for the 20th day now in the 12th month, the 16th year of Changi. Tim Elder sitting in for the second king of Changi Hyungjimun. And let's go right to our sojourn around the kingdom and see what is going on right now in Chongpyeong, Tennessee. 33 degrees and mostly cloudy. Getting up to 35 today, so not much change in the temperature. Cold with sunshine and a few clouds. Night, partly cloudy and cold. Low of 18. Father's hometown, Cheongju in North Pyongan Province, Korea. Currently 8 degrees with a real feel of 6 degrees below zero, and low tonight of 2 degrees below zero. And then tomorrow, cold with plenty of sun, high of 25. And at the Cheongung Palace in Matamoros, Pennsylvania, northeast Pennsylvania, currently 13 with a real feel of 0 Fahrenheit. Today, a high of 5 degrees, so it's going to be cold through the day, I guess. Windy, cloudy, windy, frigid, with blowing and drifting snow. Bundle up, one of the coldest days of the winter. High of 5 degrees. That's in the Cheongung Palace. And tonight, very windy, partly cloudy and frigid. Frostbite to exposed skin in 2 minutes. Low of 6 degrees below zero. Be careful. All right, at the Liberty Rock RV Park and Campground in Limestone County, Texas, 47 degrees and mostly clear. Warm with plenty of sunshine, high of 76. Tonight, partly cloudy, low of 47. And at the Suncheon Palace in Korea, clear and 23. Mainly clear and cold, a low of 18. Tomorrow, plenty of sunshine, but cold, breezy in the afternoon, a high of 33. At the Gunma Palaces in Japan, partly cloudy, and snow is going to be starting in less than an hour. And it says here that the low tonight is 22 degrees, colder with snow much of the time, accumulating 1 to 3 inches. And then tomorrow, intermittent snow and flurries in the morning with little or no accumulation. Then becoming breezy, colder, storm total snowfall 1 to 3 inches, high of 34. Guangzhou, Guangdong, China, 67 and cloudy. Tonight, 52 for a low, mostly cloudy and breezy. Tomorrow, breezy in the morning, otherwise mostly sunny and a high of 66. All right, let's go to Father's Word here. And let's see here, liberation of the true God's homeland. And here we're looking at a speech that Father gave. This is one of his 80th birthday speeches. Yeah, this is chapter 6, section 1. And the title, and I guess this is the title of the speech as well as the subheading for section 1. Unification of the world and North and South, or Father says South and North, will be done by true love. Okay. The Family Federation is is really exploiting Father's image and name, but really, well, betraying him in many, many ways, changing the words that he said not to change, beginning with the family pledge, and so forth. And recently I caught them. They put out a video on X, and this was a video where a Korean man who apparently is sitting out in front of the Seoul prison, demonstrating in favor of Hak Ja-han's release. And she's speaking into a microphone, and they're filming it, and he's saying all kinds of good things about, he's also saying, how he respects Father. And he says that I believe that Father is the second coming. Or at least that's what the English subtitles say. But when I listen to the Korean, he does not say that. He never says that. He only says that he respects Father. Now, people can respect what? I respect what? I respect Martin Luther King Jr. I respect a lot of people. I respect President Reagan. I respect President Trump. I respect a lot of people. But, for people to just stop at the point of saying they respect Father, is sort of denying his messiahship by implication, right? And he's more than a peacemaker. And Jesus, in fact, said that he did not come to bring peace, but actually to what? To light a fire, and he wished that the fire were already burning. I remember that. So, really uh, diminishing Father's role, I felt. And so they sort of snuck that in there that, oh, I believe Father's the second coming. They snuck it in there in the English subtitles to make it appear as though they were not diminishing Father, but actually they were lying. Anyway, I pointed this out in my comment. I pointed it out in the comment below the video. You can see it if you go to my X account and check out the replies that I've made to various videos of the Family Federation. Okay. And whenever I have a chance, I like to go to Family Federation videos in Korean or Japanese or English and point out that Family Federation is not the Unification Church. This is what I'm always pointing out. We're often pointing out because the Unification Church is a community of faith that believes that your Father is is Jesus, the second coming of Jesus, and follows his teachings. And they do not follow his teachings, and they obviously do not believe. Some say they do believe that he is the second coming of Jesus, but if that were true, they would not be betraying him in the way they are. Anyway, getting back here to Father's Word here in chapter 6 of the book titled of Cheonseongyong titled "The Restoration of the True God's Homeland," and here section 1, and near the end of section 1. 내외 귀빈 여러분, so basically, ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, 본인은 42년 전부터 위에서 말씀한 것처럼 통일의 근본 원칙을 선언하고, so for the last 40 years, I have been declaring the fundamental principles for unification that I have discussed above, or that I've already discussed here in this speech. 국내외에서 하나님주의를 중심한 이념 운동을 토대로, and then on the foundation of a ideological movement centering on Godism, 하나님주의, that I've conducted both domestically, in other words, in Korea, and around the world, 토대로 주변 4대 강국의 통일의 국제적인 기반을 조성해 왔습니다. I've been preparing the international foundation for the unification of Korea with the four countries, the four great powers that surround Korea. The four great powers, of course, being the U.S., Russia, China, and Japan. 한국이나 일본, 미국 등의 각각 수백만 명이 넘는 회원들이 국제승공연합 카우사 활동 등을 통해 민간 기반을 구축해왔던 것입니다. So the millions of members in Korea, Japan, and the United States have been working through the International Federation for the Victory over Communism and Causa so as to form a civilian foundation for this unification. 그동안 본인이 주창해온 하나님 주의는 유물론, 무신론의 상반된 가치관의 통일은 물론 세속적 일본 인본주의를 해방할 수 있는 유일한 사상으로 세계 각국의 지도자들과 사상계에서 검증되었습니다. And the Godism that I have been proclaiming has been examined and has been proven among world leaders and also among the philosophical circles as something that will unite the 무신론의 상반된 가치관과 통일은 then will unite the what do you call it? Not hypocritical, but what's the word? Contradictory, that's right. The contradictory values of materialism and atheism, and also uh, liberate secular humanism. Yeah, okay, that's it. All right. All right, so that's today's lesson. Thank you very much. So, Father, talking about Godism there at his speech there that he gave on his 80th, or around the time of his 80th birthday. And he gave a number of speeches that year commemorating his 80th birthday and also the year 2000. The new millennium, of course, began in 2001, but he gave a number of speeches then in 2000, sort of closing out the old millennium and preparing for the new millennium. All right, let's see what's going on. Now, this whole Epstein thing, as you know, I've sort of steered clear of it for the most part. However, there is an interesting story here on or political, I guess, political. And they point out an interesting aspect of this, which is that the Epstein scandal is taking down Europe's elite. But in the US, the elite are getting a pass. Bill and Hillary Clinton are going to be testifying in Congress soon. And I think it's going to be about the Epstein situation, and we'll have to see what comes out of that. But I think they're already sort of negotiating a situation where uh, things are not going they're not going to things are not going to be too bad for them. Anyway, let's see what this story says here in Politico. Politico, of course, is a leftist, globalist media organization. Across the Atlantic, heads are rolling over the Jeffrey Epstein revelations. In Norway, one prominent diplomat has already been suspended, and a police investigation has been opened into a former prime minister. In the UK, the former ambassador to the US has been fired. On Tuesday, he resigned from the House of Lords. Police are reviewing reports he shared market sensitive information with Epstein. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly known as Prince Andrew was stripped of his royal titles and residence. A charity founded by his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, the former Duchess of York, was shut down indefinitely following the release of emails where she called Epstein a legend and brother I have always wished for, the brother I have always wished for. But as Europe's political class moves to clean up its mess and address its shame concerning ties with the convicted sex offender, it's inadvertently highlighting something else, the comparative lack of accountability in the US. No prominent politicians have taken a fall. Consequences have been limited. Wagons have been circled around the most prominent political figures whose names have surfaced in the legal documents dumps. In the UK, former ambassador to the US, Peter Mandelson, who has said he was wrong to believe Epstein following his conviction and to continue his association with him afterwards, has emerged as a millstone around British Prime Minister Keir Starmer's neck. While Starmer never actually met Epstein, some are calling for his resignation over his appointment of Mandelson. The Prime Minister publicly apologized Thursday to Epstein's victims. I'm sorry, Starmer said. Sorry for what was done to you. Sorry that so many people with power failed you. Sorry for having believed Mandelson's lies and appointed him, and sorry that even now you're forced to watch this story unfold in public once again. It's a different story in the US. Donald Trump's Republican Party has largely averted its eyes or rallied to the president's defense, despite his documented ties to Epstein and the unverified additional allegations against the president that appeared last week. But Trump has denied wrongdoing in relation to the Epstein allegations, and no evidence has suggested that he took part in Epstein's trafficking operation. The president also has maintained that he and Epstein had a falling out years ago. And that it's not just has maintained, but that's been documented. And the reason was that Epstein sort of tried to make a move on one of the employees, I guess, or staff at Mar-a-Lago or something like that. And Trump said, okay, you're not allowed to come here anymore or something like that, right? Uh, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick remains unscathed in his cabinet post. Lutnick said on a podcast last year that he was so disgusted by his neighbor Epstein in 2005 that he vowed to never be in the same room with him again. But when the Justice Department released more than 3 million pages of materials related to the late American financier, Epstein was a financier. But I thought they'd gotten over this. This is what they were doing. And then I thought they'd finally gotten, no, anyway, he was a sex trafficker, all right? He wasn't a financier. Last Friday, emails surfaced suggesting a closer relationship with and that Lutnick had actually seen Epstein some years later on a trip to Epstein's Caribbean island. A spokesperson said the Commerce Secretary had limited interactions with Mr. Epstein in the presence of his wife and has never been accused of wrongdoing. So far, there are no signs that affected his standing in the Trump cabinet. Likewise, Goldman Sachs and its CEO, David Solomon, have stood shoulder to shoulder with the company's general counsel, Catherine Rumler, as she's faced brutal headlines for months for her associations with Epstein, which include gifts of a $9,400, how do you pronounce that, Hermes bag, and a spa treatment at the Four Seasons Hotel in D.C. Solomon told the Wall Street Journal several weeks ago that Rumler, a former White House counsel to Barack Obama, is widely respected and admired at the firm. Rumler has said she regrets ever knowing him, and I have enormous sympathy for the victims of Epstein's crimes. Even Dr. Peter Attia, the author and influential longevity researcher who is a contributor to CBS News, remains on the job despite his appearance in numerous emails with Epstein, where they discussed female genitalia and how Epstein's life was so outrageous. In an email that he posted on X, Attia apologized and said he was not involved in any criminal activity. His interactions with Epstein had nothing to do with his sexual abuse or exploitation of anyone, in that he was never on his plane or island and never present at any sex parties. So who was? Who was? Who was present? So far, what we learned is that, or at least, apparently, I don't know, some Europeans, but no, nobody from America. Who was actually, aside from Prince Andrew, and I've seen the photos, I'm sure you have too, of him on all fours, sort of over a woman who appears to be passed out. But, they're both clothed and I don't know. There may be more photos relating to that incident, but it seems to be pretty weak. And I mean, obviously she's passed out. Maybe he's trying to help her. I don't know. Some see the relatively limited fallout in a public arena where infidelity or even smoking marijuana were once enough to sink a career as a reflection of the diminished standards of the Trump era. Do we need to talk about Monica Lewinsky? Do we need to talk about Monica Lewinsky? Diminished standards of the Trump era. No, 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 no. I don't think so. Uh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. These people. Do we really need to talk about Monica Lewinsky? Yeah. Well, the president's own indiscretions and extreme polarization has led to a greater tolerance on the Cintas scandal. Well, oh, come on now. I mean, no, come on now. Uh, oh my goodness. Okay, Politico. That's it. That's it. Okay. That's it. All right, that's it for you. Oh my goodness. But it is true that we still uh, seem to know very little about what was actually, who was actually involved. I mean, so you had all these victims, okay? So who were the perpetrators? If everybody's denying, okay, here we go. This is Bill Gates. Okay, we have Bill Gates. Where'd he go? Where'd he go? He's running away from us. Where's Bill Gates? Oh, he ran away from us. See that? Even his face was flashed on the screen there, and quickly uh, it disappears. Uh, yes, Bill Gates. I think we know about Bill Gates, but but I think even Bill Gates somehow is minimizing his participation, saying, "Oh, I regret every minute of my association with him," or something like that. But uh, but what did he do during those minutes? I guess we don't know. And yeah, and the thing is that you got to figure that this is going on even now in someplace else, right? It may not be an island. It may be a ranch someplace, someplace where the rich and powerful can sort of put a fence around themselves and create some privacy where they can do whatever they want away from the public eye. But it's going on right now. Uh, we know that it's going on because these people, they are sorry that they got caught. That's basically what it boils down to, right? They're sorry that they got caught. Uh, and maybe 10, 20 years from now, we'll hear about something else, right? Yes. So, what is to be done? Well, we know that only True Father's teaching and repentance and uh, uh, clearing away or knocking off that original sin and then completing our character is going to stop this kind of thing from happening. But until that happens, then uh, this is going to continue. And of course, one reason it can happen is that these people have too much money and too much power for their own good. If they didn't have money, they wouldn't be able to buy these islands or the ranch or maybe it's a huge mansion in the woods or who knows where and it may be multiple locations, not just in the United States, but perhaps Canada, uh, perhaps in the middle of a jungle someplace. But we know that this is happening because, and we know this because the uh, elements that cause this to happen are still right there and not have not been dealt with. Okay. Anyway, so if they were really sorry, then they would do something to stop this kind of thing from happening again. But they're not doing that, and so it's going to continue to happen. All right. Let's see now. Shall we do this? This is a painful one, talking about victims. This is North Korea, and these are students, looks like, I don't know, maybe elementary school, but in North Korea, malnourishment has made it so that uh, children are not as growing as much as you would expect. And so from behind, I would say that if this were South Koreans, I would assume that they were elementary school students, perhaps fourth, fifth, sixth grade elementary school students, but this could be middle school or could be middle school in North Korea, maybe teenagers. Yeah. Anyway, here, this is North Korea teenagers executed for watching Squid Game as regime wages war on K-drama and K-pop. Right. Uh, People in North Korea, including school children, are being publicly executed, um, sent to labor camps, or subjected to brutal public humiliation for watching South Korean television shows or listening to K-pop, according to new testimonies gathered by Amnesty International. North Koreans who fled the country told Amnesty that watching globally popular South Korean dramas, including Crash Landing on You, descendants of the sun in Squid Game, or listening to South Korean pop music can lead to the most extreme punishments, including death. Those without money or connections face the harshest consequences. And well, this is because North Korea realizes that they are a house of cards, and they also have studied the collapse of East Germany and Soviet Union and Eastern European countries, and they realize that it was information from the West that led or helped facilitate the crash of those communist regimes. And so they're determined not to let that happen to themselves. And so they do everything they can to cut off any kind of information from the outside. And some people, when they come across them when they come out of North Korea, um, they do so because, in most cases, they feel that their life is under threat. And when you talk to these people, they say, "Well, I figured that if I stayed, I was going to die anyway. So as long as I'm going to die anyway, I might as well try and get out and see what the world is like outside." And so they make their escape. And some of them, I don't know if it's a majority or minority, but some succeed and some don't. Some succeed, but then are caught in China, and there's an agreement between North Korea and China where North Korea will send back anyone from North Korea that they catch in China. And so even in China, they are not safe. And then most of them make their way down south through China, one way or another, and uh, get across into Laos or Thailand, Cambodia, one of those countries, and then make their way into a South Korean embassy somewhere there in Southeast Asia. And from there, then they're able to, once they declare that they want to go to South Korea, then the South Korean diplomats help them make their way to South Korea or to the United States in some cases. Um, uh, so but when they come out, they're surprised by a number of things. They're surprised that South Korea is not poor. Some people in North Korea know this already, but some people who are sort of in the elite sort of groups know this already. But those are people who have opportunity to travel abroad, of course, with their families being held as hostages, virtual hostages. But people who do not have that kind of an opportunity to travel abroad and are just subjected to the normal propaganda from North Korea are quite surprised to learn that South Korea is not the beggar nation, not the exploited colony of the United States that North Korea makes it out to be. So North Korea is doing everything it can to stop any kind of information from getting in order to preserve its house of cards. And they know it's a house of cards, and they know that just one push is going to send it toppling. Interviewees described a climate of fear in which South Korean culture is treated as a serious crime, while wealthier families can sometimes avoid punishment by paying bribes to corrupt officials. Sam Brooks, Amnesty International's deputy regional director, said these testimonies show how North Korea is enforcing dystopian laws that mean watching a South Korean TV show can cost you your life unless you can afford to pay. The authorities criminalized access to information in violation of international law, then allow officials to profit off those fearing punishment. This is repression layered with corruption, and it most devastates those without wealth or connections. The government's fear of information has effectively placed the entire population in an ideological cage, suffocating their access to the views and thoughts of other human beings. People who strive to learn more about the world outside Korea or seek simple entertainment from overseas face the harshest of punishments. This completely arbitrary system built on fear and corruption violates fundamental principles of justice and internationally recognized human rights. It must be dismantled. Recently, I interviewed a man. who was a part of the elite in North Korea, and he was the head of a corporation that supported the regime by um, earning foreign currency. He was involved in trading and he would make trips outside the country, and also others under him routinely made trips outside the country. Um, and he, in this interview, and this is going to be published soon, I hope, I'm trying to get the English subtitles on it. I interviewed him in Korean, and he uh, uh, was there. He was in his late 20s, I guess, when True Father visited North Korea. And he remembers that visit, and he said he was really impressed by it, and a lot of people were impressed by it. And he was impressed mostly because he said that, North Korea has a lot of foreign dignitaries coming, but none of these foreign dignitaries, no matter how high they may be, they can be presidents or of a country, whatever, but they are not accorded any kind of respect. They're not. They just say, okay, well, the media will say, okay, well, this person came, president of such and such a country came, and this kind of thing. Because he says in North Korea, only, in his case, only Kim Il sung is deserving of respect, and no one else is deserving of respect. But then he said he saw Kim Il sung embrace father, and that was shocking to him and to many North Koreans. He said, wait a second, what is going on here? And he heard that Kim Il sung had said, okay, well, let's have a blood brother relationship. And he said, whoa, wait a second. Who is this guy, Reverend Moon? He didn't say Reverend. It was, Father didn't use the title Reverend when he was in North Korea. Who is this guy, President Moon? That Kim Il sung is the only time that I ever saw Kim Il sung show respect to anyone. And anyway, he was sort of talking about, though, that even though we saw this on television, no one could really express their surprise because to do so would put them in danger of violating the law. Say, wow, this guy, Reverend Moon or President Moon, he must be really something. Couldn't say that. Couldn't say that because that would violate the law that you are only supposed to show respect to Kim Il sung. But people sort of whispered to each other, and it sort of word of mouth, they said, spread that this guy, President Moon, must be someone incredible because they saw Kim Il sung sort of bow his head to him. Never seen anything like it. So anyway, he came to South Korea. He found himself in a situation about 20 years ago where his life was in danger. Basically, well, he was betrayed and by one of his colleagues, and which put his life in danger, and so he decided to make a break for it. And he's been in South Korea now for 20 years. And he said that when he came to South Korea, um, he talked about, he came to, and many of these people come to Korea with the help of Christian organizations. And so he talked about Reverend Moon. And they said, whoa, 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 wait a second, wait a second, wait a second. One thing you need to know, never, ever, ever mention Reverend Moon because he is a heretic and you must never, never talk about him. And he's saying, well, wait a second. Wait a second. I've held this man in respect ever since, ever since I saw his visit to North Korea and his interaction with Kim Il sung. And here in South Korea, I'm not supposed to talk about him. So anyway, he's a very resourceful person, as you can imagine, because he was a businessman in North Korea. And here also, he has published a number of books, 10 books in South Korea. And his most recent book, which was actually published 2 years ago, is actually a testimony to True Father. And trying to, tell people. He says, listen, you guys, you gotta get with the program because Reverend Moon is not what you think. And so it's a testimony to True Father directed at South Korean Christians, especially, and others who he says just obviously don't know what's actually going on with this man Sun Myung-moon. Um, and so it's a testimony to the True Father, about 400 pages, uh, from the perspective of a North Korean atheist, basically, because you know, but one thing he says about South Korean Christians, which I'm sure got him in trouble, was that it says, listen, you guys, you worship this guy Jesus, but think about it, he says. What did Jesus do for world peace? What did he do for world peace? Okay, so he died on the cross for the sins of all mankind. All right, but did he feed anybody? Right? And did he? What did he actually do? Look at what Ramon has done. He's done all sorts of things for the sake of world peace, and you guys are worshiping this person who lived in some far off country when you have an even greater person living right here, or who was living right here in Korea. So what's with that? Did not gain any points with the South Korean Christians, I'm sure. So anyway, he's been attending church. He's been attending Sanctuary Church now for a while, and he's a very interesting. He's always involved in some kind of a project. He's a real go-getter, and right now he's doing stuff also with some members there, and he has a company that he's operating here. Um, and in his company, he said one thing that disappointed him when he came to South Korea was the low quality of liquor. He says, they call this is water. It's not liquor. It's water. I want to show them what Korean liquor really tastes like. So so he has a company that's I guess I have not tried it, but apparently it's some strong stuff that he's producing. I don't know. Anyway, but so anyway, I got off on this because of this article on Korea and how the information uh, is being withheld from the people in North Korea. Okay. All right. Let's see here. This human rights was Amnesty International says this completely arbitrary system built on fear and corruption violates fundamental principles of justice and internationally recognized human rights. It must be dismantled. Of course, if you dismantle it, basically you're talking about a regime change because the regime depends on this. And they know it. They know it. They know it. The people at the top, you know it. But what else are you going to do, right? When you look at what happened in Romania to Ceausescu, right? When you look at what happened in East Germany, in Hungary, Poland, Czechoslovakia, all these places, North Korea says, "Whoa, we don't want that here. We don't want to be killed like that by our people." Hmm. Especially Ceausescu was a very brutal situation where he and his wife were uh, very brutally killed. Interviewees said that newer South Korean content was reaching North Korea faster than in previous decades. They mentioned popular South Korean dramas from the 2010s, including Crash Landing on You, noted for its North Korea setting, and Descendants of the Sun, which features military themes. One interviewee reported hearing from an escapee with family connections in Yangon province. Yangon province is up against the Chinese border, that people, including high school students, were executed for watching Squid Game. Radio Free Asia separately documented an execution in North Hamgyong province in 2021 for distributing the series. Of course, North Hamgyong province would be up there, China, Russia, that area. Taken together, these reports from different provinces suggest multiple executions related to the shows. Interviewees also said that listening to South Korean pop music is targeted by authorities. They mentioned K-pop songs, including those by BTS. In 2021, the Korea Times reported that North Korean teenagers were caught and punished for listening to BTS. Amnesty International conducted 25 in-depth individual interviews with North Korean escapees in 2025. The group included 11 individuals who fled North Korea between 2019 and 2020, with the most recent departure in June 2020. Most were aged between 15 and 25 at the time of their escape. COVID-19 border closures have made escapes extremely rare since 2020. North Korea has long maintained one of the world's most restrictive information environments. Testimonies gathered by Amnesty International describe how accessing foreign culture or information was actively punished, including by execution at least before 2020. The introduction of the 2020 Anti-Reactionary Thought and Culture Act, which defines South Korean content as rotten ideology that paralyzes the people's revolutionary sense. That's true. It does paralyze people's revolutionary sense. That's true. Mandates between 5 and 15 years of forced labor for watching or possessing South Korean dramas, films, or music. The law prescribes heavy sentences, including the death penalty, for distributing large amounts of content or organizing group viewings. Despite the risks, interviewees describe the consumption of South Korean and other foreign media as widespread. Dramas, films, and music are smuggled into North Korea on USB drives from China and watched on notebook computers with built-in televisions. Interesting. Notels. North Koreans who fled the country between 2012 and 2020 told Amnesty International that people commonly watched South Korean TV knowing the risks, but that punishment depended heavily on money. People are caught for the same act, but punishment depends entirely on money, said Choi Soo-vin, 39, who left North Korea in 2019. People without money sell their houses to gather 5,000 or 10,000 USD to pay to get out of the re-education camps. Kim Jun-sik, 28, said he was caught watching South Korean dramas 3 times before leaving the country in 2019, but avoided punishment because his family had connections. Usually when high school students are caught, if their family has money, they just get warnings, he said. I didn't receive legal punishment because we had connections. He said 3 of his sister's high school friends received years-long labor camp sentences in the late 2010s for watching South Korean dramas because their families could not afford bribes. And I think, when these people get sent to labor camps, they don't get sent alone. Their families go with them in many cases. In fact, 3 generations generally go with them. And the man that I interviewed also, although this does not come in the interview, his father was purged when he was a child. And so he went with his father to a labor camp and spent some years in a labor camp, and then later came out. And so anyway, he has quite a story, but it's a short interview and we didn't get into that part. 15 interviewees from different regions mentioned the 109 Group, a specialized law enforcement unit that conducts warrantless home and street searches of bags and mobile phones, indicating a nationwide systemic approach. One interviewee recalled members of the unit saying, "We don't want to punish you harshly, but we need to bribe our bosses to save our own lives." Another described the system as an open secret. Workers watch it openly, party officials watch it proudly, security agents watch it secretly, and police watch it safely. Everyone knows everyone watches, including those who do the crackdowns. Interviewees described it being forced as school children to attend public executions as part of their ideological education. Choi Soo-bin witnessed a public execution in Shinwiju in 2017 or 2018 of someone accused of distributing foreign media. Shinwiju is the city that is at the mouth of the Yalu River, right there on the Chinese border. Authorities told everyone to go, and tens of thousands of people from Shinwiju city gathered to watch. She said they executed people to brainwash and educate us. Others described schools systematically ordering students to attend executions. We were 16, 17 in middle school. They took us to executions and showed us everything. Said Kim Eun-ju, 40. That would be a girl, I guess. People were executed for watching or distributing South Korean media. It's ideological education. If you watch this, happens to you too. All right. Public executions, I guess, used to be sometimes conducted in the United States, especially in the West, where people would be hanged in the town square for stealing a horse or murder or whatever, or just doing something that the sheriff didn't like in some cases. Uh, but that was 19th century, and presumably we've advanced beyond that, I hope. But in North Korea, this kind of thing still goes on. And of course, North Korea, there are many. You talk about Epstein Island. I mean, come on. You know, Kim Jong Un's what do they call it? The Joy Squad. She has a number of squads: the Joy Squad, the Happiness Squad, and uh, his people are always combing the country for beautiful young girls who can be taken to Pyongyang and trained and put through a sort of an examination process to see where they best fit into the whole sort of a sexual exploitation hierarchy. And anyway, so North Korea, a lot of bad stuff going on there, and yet father is saying, well, we need to unite the two and unite the two with Godism, uh, bring God's kingdom. Now, to be fair, there's sex trafficking and sexual exploitation in South Korea as well. I would say that probably today it's not as bad as it was when I first got here. And when I first came to Korea, I believed what we were taught in the 3-day workshop. That South Korea was a country of righteousness and all that stuff. And so I believe that there would certainly not be any prostitution in South Korea. Well, that bubble burst pretty quickly, didn't it? Now I think today, partly because the economic level of South Korea has risen considerably since I first came here in 1978. There's less of that, but back then, people were still selling their daughters in order to prevent the rest of the family from starving to death. And uh, or I think today probably the sexual exploitation comes largely from broken families, families where um, male members of the family, fathers, uncles, grandfathers, and so forth, uh, are guilty of sexual exploitation, but also just because the regular teenage desire to seek freedom outside the family, that kind of thing. So, but I think it is certainly a lot less than what it used to be. And actually, what we see now in South Korea is people coming in from North Korea and from Northeast China. In other words, the ethnic Koreans from Northeast China. And actually don't know which is which because when North Koreans come to South Korea, they often claim to be not North Korean, but ethnic Koreans from Northeast China, because apparently that helps them avoid a lot of discrimination. Apparently, there's a kind of a discrimination against North Koreans in South Korea. So you don't know who is which, but these people have a hard time fitting into the sort of economic system. I don't want to call it capitalist because it's not really capitalist, but fitting into the economic system of South Korea. And so especially young women in this situation often find themselves in situations where they are exploited. And of course, you also have Russians and people from Central Asia also coming into South Korea as well. But so it's a different, but I think it's less than what it used to be, but still it's still a problem. Okay. And what did I just do? I think I just killed all of the stories that I had prepared. All right, let's see if I can bring them back. Let's see. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I wanted to talk about solar panels. Um, just to let you know that uh, Prime Minister Takaichi is declaring war on the Chinese-made solar panels. And uh, let's see if I can bring this back. Japan is developing a new sort of solar panel system that you may not be aware of. I was not aware of it until recently. And this may be sort of an answer to how to avoid the sort of the slave labor that goes into the Chinese solar panels. Japan is pioneering ultra-thin, flexible perovskite solar panels. Perovskite apparently is a type of mineral, aiming to generate 20 gigawatts by 2040, equivalent to 20 nuclear reactors with urban-friendly, high-efficiency technology. Perovskite solar cells are a next-generation photovoltaic technology characterized, let me just bring this up, characterized by lightweight, flexible, and thin film construction, allowing installation on surfaces unsuitable for conventional silicon panels, such as windows, walls, rooftops, and vehicles. They offer high efficiency even under low light conditions, with lab efficiencies approaching 30% and theoretical limits up to 43%, surpassing the 29% limit on traditional silicon cells. Their flexibility makes them ideal for Japan's urban and mountainous terrain, where flat land for solar farms is limited. And Japan has set an ambitious target to install 20 gigawatts of perovskite solar panels by 2040, equivalent to the output of 20 nuclear reactors. This initiative is part of the country's broader renewable energy strategy to increase the share of renewables to 50% of electricity demand by 2040 and achieve net zero emissions by 2050. The government is supporting this through subsidies, including $1 billion investment for Sekisui Chemical to produce 100 megawatt of panels by 2027, and additional funding, $167 million for Panasonic, Ricoh, and Enecote technologies to advance perovskite production. Leading Japanese companies like Sekisui Chemical, Panasonic, Ricoh, and Enecote Technologies are developing PSCs for commercial use. Sekisui Chemical has launched pilot projects, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And challenges, environmental concerns, lead content in PSCs require careful disposal and handling. So that's a problem that they need to figure out. And also humidity and UV exposure can affect performance, particularly in coastal areas. So those are some of the situations. And the production costs are currently higher, but are projected to drop by 2040. And Japan's investment in PSCs leverages its domestic iodine production, essential for perovskite manufacturing, reducing reliance on foreign imports and enhancing energy security. The technology also positions Japan to reclaim global leadership in solar innovation, which it lost to China in the early 2000s. So with ongoing research, government support, and industrial collaboration, Japan aims to mass produce durable, high-efficiency perovskite panels and integrate them into urban infrastructure, vehicles, and public facilities. This could reshape urban energy generation, reduce dependence on fossil fuels, and serve as a model for other densely populated nations. Hmm. So I found that very interesting. Yes. So, this whole sort of environmental thing, uh, a lot of times the effort is to stop advanced countries from being so advanced, well, to reduce the industrial output of advanced countries or affluent countries, shall we say, affluent countries, and also to suppress the advancement of less affluent countries as well. And especially Brazil has long complained about this, right? Where people are saying, well, preserve the Amazon forest, preserve the Amazon forest. And Brazil says, wait a second, what about the forests that used to blanket the Western Europe or Europe in general or the United States? What happened to those forests? You killed all of your forests, but now you want us to preserve ours and keep us from advancing to where you are now? So those kinds of complaints are always occurring. And perhaps this kind of new technology will help to will help those countries also to advance without destroying uh, the beautiful nature that they have. Obviously, human beings have not done a good job of cultivating the Garden of Eden that we've been given. We've destroyed so much of it, and Father uh, has spoken about this. He's even said that every human beings are responsible for every species that has gone extinct since the fall, and human beings had better find a way to bring those back. Okay, perhaps God will help us find that way, or maybe the spirit world, the archangels know of a way that can happen. But anyway, yes, human beings have done a terrible job of taking care of the planet Earth, and not only the planet Earth, but also the space around us, all the space junk that is up there in the sky, and beyond. So maybe this is a good step forward towards a better management of the resources that God has given us. Yes. By the way, this Sunday, tomorrow actually is the election in Japan, and uh, the media polls right now are saying that this is going to be a huge win for Takaichi and the Liberal Democratic Party, but some people think that the leftist media is saying this on purpose so that the conservatives will let their guard down, so that conservative voters will not go to the polls saying, why should I do that? They're going to win anyway. I'll just go fishing or something like that. But anyway, we'll see. We will see. Uh, all indications right now are that Takaichi is going to have a big win, that she's going to have a solid majority in the lower house. It's still she'll have a minority in the upper house, but that's not so important because in Japan the upper house is not like the U.S. Senate at all. It's more like the House of Lords in the UK. It has very little actual effective power. All right. So that is what is happening tomorrow. So let's pray that God's will can be done there. Okay, let me see. Pizza Hut closing hundreds of locations around the U.S. My goodness, what is the world coming to? My. Pizza Hut closing hundreds of locations. Who's going to create all the pizza? Um, All right. And what else here? Bermuda Triangle breakthrough as forces found beneath the ocean surface. Oh, yeah. Okay. Whatever that is. And four cryptocurrencies that could be the next Bitcoin. All right. Let's move on. Okay. Revolutionary Guard boats swarm American destroyer. Okay. Are they trying to defect? I don't know. 1 ounce walking Liberty silver round. All right. Okay. John Bonet rat. Oh my goodness. Okay. Ah, yeah, you can see there's not much going on right now. NATO countries move in on Greenland with new bases as Trump takeover plan stalls. Cardano founder Charles Hoskinson reveals his $3 billion loss in personal crypto holdings. Okay. Well, that means that someone else got the $3 billion, I guess. So it all evens out in the end. And U.S. Huge explosion rips military base in Tehran. Okay, is this something beginning? Panama Canal decision is another Trump win in the Western Hemisphere. I think we covered that yesterday. Okay, UK scientists are also build perovskite solar cells that retain 95% performance. Well, that's a lot better than what we just read about Japan. Okay. AI is moving more quickly than anticipated. Now we get back to Pizza Hut. All right, gotta go. I will see you Monday, and have a nice weekend. And God bless Godspeed. May His kingdom come quickly.